is there was a period of time that you were doing workshops in the focusing world on shame. And I'm just wondering kind of how you came into that work and sort of what's the deeper significance of that and how you worked with it in a focusing way.
Yeah, it's such a pivotal thing. Shame is, see, how does Brene Brown define it? Shame is the feeling that we're flawed and defective, and therefore, that's the very extremely painful feeling
Yeah.
that we're flawed and defective, and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. And it's so painful. We want to avoid it. That shame, that humiliation, it's just so painful. We just learn to push it away, deny it, suppress it, avoid it. When we catch on to shame, it's really powerful because it suddenly helps us realize, oh, I have shame, but I am not the shame. The shame got conditioned in me from how oftentimes the toxic shame is the conditioning that we grew up with, all the messages we internalize that we're not good enough, smart enough, good
Hmm.
looking enough,
Hmm.
from our parents, our teachers, our peers on the playground, on the baseball field. And if you're not good at something, you're the last one picked for the team. It's so humiliating. Unfortunately, I was good at baseball and I wasn't good at other sports, but the kids didn't pick on me so much because I was good at baseball. So
Yes. You
I
just
still got
need
my,
one thing, don't you, that kind of
yeah,
saves.
yeah, yeah, baseball and bowling, I was pretty good.
Okay. I want to stick with that a little bit longer. It's as you're describing it, I'm thinking there's something about those messages that become so much a part of one's identity that it can be very difficult to get that kind of space in order to kind of be with it or to have it rather than to feel like I am it.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, what can I say about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, which again, focusing is helpful for because a lot of what focusing is about is finding the right distance between us and whatever we're feeling, whatever we're experiencing. So being in the body is one way to work with it. Just really being able to self-regulate, self-soothe, just just really fully honoring ourselves, honoring what we're feeling. And shame is part of oftentimes what we're experiencing, what we grew up with. So if we can realize, oh, yeah, I got that message, that I'm not good enough, the repeated messages from our father. And I got a lot of shaming from my father. My mother was a saving grace. She was very warm and kindly most of the time. Not perfect, but really good mother. But yeah, I know what it's like to be shamed a lot by a parent. It's so toxic. It can be really debilitating. And we can grow up with a really low sense of self-esteem, self-worth, which was, true for me. I really had to work on that to begin to value myself more as I am. Yeah.
If you can I ask if I guess as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, is there anything special about working with shame rather than other bodily feelings? And the one thing I'm wondering about is if when you're working with shame in the body, is it because a lot of the things you were just saying resonate for me and probably for a lot of people, parents or peers in the past can be very cruel, sometimes unintentionally and sometimes not. Um, but when now, like later on in adult life, when you come up with those experiences of shame, is it your experience that um, when the feeling of shame is there, that there is also in some way another part that is continuing that shaming process from the past?
Yeah, I think we internalize a narrative. Oh yeah, I am defective. Something's wrong with me. I'm not worthy of love. Love
Yeah.
is not for me. I'll often hear clients say, and they just kind of give up. This kind of with depression maybe sets in. So shame can be foundational for anxiety, for depression,
Yeah.
and it's been often called the master emotion. Um, yeah, and it's also been called a binding emotion. And shame is so pivotal; it binds with our other emotions. So, for example, we're sad about something, a relationship breaks up, or a friend tells, "Oh, you should be over that by now. It's been a month or it's been a year."
Mhm.
And, the shame kicks in and binds with the grief. Like, oh, there's something wrong with me for feeling this. Okay, I got to push it away. And that just guarantees that the grief's just going to continue. Our
Yeah.
suffering's going to continue because we're not taking time just to notice the grief, the sadness. It's okay. Doesn't mean you're weak. Doesn't mean something's wrong with you. Just let the feeling be there for as long as it wants to be there. And if you can be with it in a kind and gentle way, I mean, my teachers, Ed and Pete, would often talk about caring, feeling presence. Just be with it in a caring, feeling way. And it tends to pass. Like Carl Rogers famously said, when we can accept ourselves just as we are, then we can change.
Yeah.
Not try to fix ourselves, change ourselves, be with what is, and life begins to unfold. So yeah, it binds with grief, it binds with sadness, it binds with anger. We can't do anger, especially women grow up with that message. It's not ladylike to be angry.
Hmm.
And so we learn so shame binds with the emotion and we get frozen. So we
Hmm.
have to kind of do some microsurgery, separate the shame from the actual feeling that we're having and realize, oh, that's shame operating. When people catch on to that, it's pivotal. It's
Yeah.
transformative. Oh, that's shame. That's not me. That's something I internalize. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds really, really helpful. And I like that word binding because I can just imagine that there's a vulnerable feeling and then this shame kind of slumps on top of it. And it just becomes a morass of a feeling until you realize that there's actually two places there, a vulnerable place and a part that has internalized these negative sort of this negative self-image or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. These negative messages that we
Yeah,
internalize and then we come to believe them.
exactly.
There's saying that I like, don't believe everything you think.
Yeah, that's a good one to remember.
It's often our thoughts are destructive, toxic, self-negating.
Yeah. And I guess one of the things you can notice is just the impact of the thought. If it brings shame, then that probably is a thought that isn't helpful in some way, probably isn't true, and might not even be yours.
Right, exactly. Maybe internalized. So, yeah, my book, The Authentic Heart, I distinguish between the inner critic and shame. The inner critic are often the thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm something wrong with me. I'm never going to find love. I'm defective. And the shame is the felt sense, the feeling of,
Hmm.
as John Paul Sartre said, it's that immediate shudder that runs through me from head to toe,
Yeah.
like contraction. You can bodily feel it if you open to it. It's very painful. So we don't want to merge with that pain. We want to have some space from it. Just notice it, let it be. And
Yeah. I think that um, kind of the recognition of how those two come together, the inner critic and the shame, is incredibly helpful.